Now that our two candidates have squared off face to face, I have a few comments on what I heard them say. Interesting how McCain keeps insisting on using a hatchet, but keeps insisting on spending more on the war on Iraq. A war that I don't care what he says, it's obvious it's a failure. $800 billion has already been spent in Iraq. How much better could our economy be with just a fraction of those $800 billion that he has already spent there? Um, it is ridiculous. And on top of that, $10 billion more gets spent daily. Imagine that, $10 billion a day spent in a war that should not have taken place. And he is talking about cutting unnecessary expenses. Excuse me. If that is not a blank check, I don't know what is. The second thing, McCain was talking about having about all those people allegedly re-enlisting to continue defending the country. There is a lot McCain is not telling you. The Marines are bribing the current people to re-enlist. I really do wonder how many of them are re-enlisting out of their heart. Maybe some, but I don't think all of them. I have a brother in the Marines. He explicitly told me that the only reason why he is re-enlisting was not because of his desire to protect the United States. It was not for his pride in the Marine Corps. He is re-enlisting solely because he was told that in order to be able to receive the GI Bill that he would need to be able to pay for his college education, he has to serve another term in the military. He's going there just so that he could go to college. When our young people are being told you have to risk your life in order for us to pay your tuition, there's something wrong with our government. No better off than many dictatorships. Now, another thing, McCain really hit it head on, and I cheered for McCain when he told straight out. I mean, not McCain. I cheered for Obama straight out when he told McCain all the mistakes he said. You said this, you were wrong. You pushed for the war in Iraq, you were wrong. You said we should muddle through Afghanistan, you were wrong. You said this, you were wrong. I cheered for Obama because he hit it head on. And McCain's only response to that was, you don't understand. What is there to understand? History speaks for itself. Don't come and tell us you don't understand. History speaks for itself. And it is quite obvious that the one who doesn't understand anything in this scenario is McCain. He had stated that we could murder him through Afghanistan. We are already a failure. We have already lost the war, McCain, because of you who have not insisted in, who has been fighting against insisting to trap Bin Laden, the major mastermind of 9/11, and insisting on Iraq. Wait a minute. Come to think of it, you're also for drilling oil. Could it be because you sold yourself out to the oil industry? That everything about you spells oil industry. That's all you are about, oil industry. You're not about the American people, so stop trying to pretend to be. Your vice principal, Palin, same thing. She's only becoming a vice president, not so much for the American people, but to get that pipeline through to Alaska. Give us a break. I do not trust people who make such ridiculous mistakes. Oh, there's no history about Sunnis and Shias fighting. Where are you getting your information from? This expresses a lot of ignorance, and I do not trust somebody who had ever made such a claim to be um, the commander-in-chief of our forces. I do not trust McCain at all with our homeland security if he doesn't even know basic uh, um, geography and basic world history. It is ridiculous. It is you who doesn't understand, for if you had known, you would have known that taking Iraq out before Afghanistan and Pakistan would have only caused more strengthened the Taliban. But then again, you're not interested in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, obviously, because they have no oil. You are the one who are you're really just worried about Iraq because of the oil. Let's face it. You were all worried about getting a wider war taking place. Guess what? You got the wider war by starting off in Iraq when we should have finished what we started in Afghanistan first. It is common sense. It is the most basic form of wisdom to finish what you start before you take on anything else. We started Afghanistan, we never finished it because we never captured bin Laden. And then you wanted to go take on Iraq. We're not done with Iraq now, you wanted to take on Russia. That's the reason why we are failing. Go Obama for taking those troops out of Iraq and putting them where they belong, in Afghanistan and Pakistan. Heck, let's take Islamabad down. That's where we should send the troops because we need to get bin Laden out of his hiding place and teach him a lesson or two. That's what we need to do. We don't need to spend no more $10 billion daily in Iraq. You stated, McCain, that Iran had a terrible government and that was the reason why its economy was low, even though it had a wealth in oil. Guess what? Your favorite guy, President Bush, just led this country to the same place. We have a terrible economy in which even banks are declaring bankruptcy. A $700 billion bailout is in the works right now to help those corrupt banks out of the issues, out of the problem which they themselves brought up on themselves because of such idiotic campaign, idiotic administration that your president, President Bush, has had. And the very same policies which you supported 90% of the time. What makes me so sure you're going to be a good president if you 90% of the time you voted in favor of the same policies that has led this country to the shambles it is now in? People, wake up and smell the coffee. Don't believe McCain's claim about being a maverick. 9 out of 10 times voting towards one side is not being a maverick. 1 out of 10 times is not being a maverick. A maverick means consistent, consistently going up against the current administration instead of letting oneself be manipulated 9 out of 10 times. Please, if you vote for McCain, you're going to be responsible for the doom of our nation. Now, I agree. Russia should have never invaded Georgia. But what a hypocrite McCain is by going about bad-mouthing Russia when he himself has been supporting the invasion of another sovereign state such as Iraq. Let's get it real. Oh, Russia invaded a nation that respects borders. I didn't like Iraq, but even in the time of Iraq, not once did I see Iraq trying to take over Iranian territory, even though they were sworn enemies. Borders were still protected after all. The invasion of Russia into Georgia was for oil. The very same reason why we invaded Iraq after all.